I'm just gonna continue what I was doing last time. Now I think that I can do F12. I told the agent to create this instead of using the example, create the my own thing here. So I can go with F5, but I think what I was thinking about doing is maybe create a file first and then see if I can come up with the code from scratch. I probably won't be able to. And this is one of the things that I was thinking about doing with the website because it's more memorization than understanding. I think that's the problem. Like the only way to become better at this is memorizing the patterns. Even though studying the library probably helps memorize because then you understand. But I don't think there's any other way about it rather than just manually trying to build a bunch of times without seeing the solution. There's also a difference, I think, here based on commands and flags, which I don't understand very well. Another thing is that's I think that the type of arguments or the type of flag or argument you pass when you call the executable is based on this macro here. If you use long, that means you're gonna have to type the whole word. And if you also use the short, then you can pass only the letter, I think the first letter. But I'm not 100% sure if that's how it works. It creates a struct. I think it can be named whatever you want, and then uses this derive parser. And then, oh. All right, so commands. Yeah, I think it's based on the macros that it passes there. The thing that is kind of annoying is like how I'm gonna maybe I'll do example as. And here I already forgot. Like I think it's use and then clap, a clap, and a parser maybe. I think there's more than one thing there. Parser commands. What what was the other thing? Then you create I struct called CLI. And you have to use the things like this, derive, parser. Also I have to put this is a mod here probably. Mods example. Because then try to compile. Then there is the other macro here. Maybe arg, long or short, long. Uh, hmm. So maybe I don't remember. Hashtag arg. It's probably because I not using something that I should. Maybe these other macro commands. Macro. Let's see here. Oh, it doesn't change anything. There must be something that is using here. Maybe because a comma here or stuff. Okay, so it wasn't the macro, it was the comma there. So it must be this. Hmm. I think the purpose of command is whenever you want one of the arguments to depend on the other ones. So it becomes more complex. I don't understand why this is needed. Like, why not just parse as normal flags and then let the program decide what it wants to do? Let's see the results. I forgot what it had here. The I can match because it's a struct, but I don't remember. It's not a struct because it is calling this function here, so I don't know what this returns. When you return self here is kind of confusing too, because the way that I think about traits is just a bunch of is a template for function implementations. So I'm not sure that if the self returns the trait, because that wouldn't make much sense because the trade's not an object itself. I guess that it returns the original struct that the trade implements. So I'm gonna ask this. This is what I mean. What I meant last time that I streamed. That's kind of annoying on Rust. This like I go to the definition and then it just shows me the type, but then I'm not really sure about what the actual function is doing. I think one of the things that makes this annoying is like you're not sure if there are side effects or not. But another thing is that you can't really explore from the function from inside what are the other connections to that function as well. But I'm not really sure if there's an easy way to solve this. But the other thing that I wanted to see, so is matching on the command. And I guess that whatever type you put on the struct is going to be the one that the program expects to receive. So you pass as an argument, and then you pass as an argument when you're calling the executable, and then it's going to translate into whatever type you put inside of the struct. You can access through this object that you receive. So I assume that it returns the struct here. Then you can access the flags that it passed. And then you can do whatever you want. And whenever you have this, also the macro with the arg determines what kind of flag you're gonna receive. You're gonna allow to use. The long or short, the long is the full name. The short is only the first letter, I think. And then I'm not really sure what this one would be. And the sum command is whenever you want to have more complicated behavior. So once one of the flags should depend on the other ones. And it allows you to determine what's gonna happen based on the way you're gonna use this. Let me see. I don't think I'm gonna be able to remember from memory. I think it's so I need to put subcommand here, I think. Subcommand. Then I do derive subcommands. Do enum commands. I think it had a different name on there. The copy source destination and path or something like that. Not sure though. Source use the I think std path. Half both. I guess this one determines if you don't pass anything, it's gonna copy one. It has this, then arg. False value t. One. And here was copies, but I forgot the rest. 232. Should have done here. So I have to put clone here, I think. I don't understand why. Here just deriving. Oh, but I guess the enum. Yeah, so I did. Hmm. Maybe not actually. Also, I think it's because of uses another macro here. So first and so command. Maybe it was just a typo. If I erase this again. I think it was just a type error there. Put command here. how you do this. How you change this. It's too hard to remember everything. At the same time, I'm not really sure if I should do a closed card with the like some the structure written, and then instead of having the fields, I have input fields. Not sure if that would be like fast enough to memorize this. And what do you do here? I think it's just printing. Something like this. There's a question mark here. What's display? Hmm. Not sure. That's probably because of this. So when you don't have the semicolon, you're just gonna return the value. But then when you do have, it considers it as another line. And here I don't need this underscore because I'm matching all the patterns already. And it doesn't need to be an error there because the match is not gonna be returning the function. So the function continues after the match. I'm gonna go over with the debugger really fast. Then I'm gonna ask GPT these questions, and I'm just gonna think about. I'm probably just gonna stop streaming and then think about like how to structure the exercises. Because this is the issue. Is like I think there is no way around typing multiple times until you memorize. Because I already understand, like from a user's perspective, I already understand how the library works. I don't understand the nuances yet very well of how it works under the hood. But obviously, I can pretty easily just have an agent create this and then do like not deal with this at all. But then you never get to the point where you can just write it down yourself without relying on an external factor. But writing every time feels slow and inefficient, but then I'm not really sure if there is another way to internalize what patterns I need to write. That's the whole point. That's why it's hard to think about like how to do an exercise to just know how to do it. Fuck. What you press F11 to go into the naming to there. And here you jumped straight into this, but not really sure how. It's just the macro doing this. Yeah, that's the issue. That's whatever, just gonna keep going. Maybe I should put like a breakpoint on these functions. Maybe one here. I wanted to see at one moment is going to also it gets from here, I think. I put on here. Here. Yeah, so this is the Windows API. I think probably a macro. This is the kernel library, dynamic linked library. Okay. It's basically linking the libraries on the from the Windows kernel dynamically, and then calling the functions from the API. That's gonna return a string, probably a string that was passed through the executable parse flags. Then the other function is gonna turn that into an iterator, and then go over it, parse, and change the types, I think. It's still confusing, like around the nuances of how it's gonna turn the string into the type that you have inside of the struct there. It's kind of annoying to go over the. I need to map out the good places to put breakpoints first. Just jump around instead of doing F10, because then you could end up skipping important functions as you go through it. Maybe I put one here as well. Backlash, blah blah blah. Then this. Yeah, so this one implements the iterator already. So when it returns, it's an iterator. Args iterator. So this where here is a constraint. It was very confusing for me to learn in the beginning, but the way that it works when you have a generic, it could in theory be any type you want. But then when you use the where, you're basically saying that can still be any type you want, but as long as it satisfies the constraint you have here. At least that's how I think it works. And this is a trait. So it's basically saying that whatever type you use should pass there, it has to implement these functions. Because then you force, like otherwise you could pass a type that doesn't implement, then you would break the function. And this trait accepts another generic. So the way that I read this is basically saying that it has to implement the functions that this trait implements, and the item has to be the other type that you pass here to the when you call the function. It passes the iterator here, same constraints again. It's kind of confusing. I think that what this is doing is allowing the value to be anything that implements here. Is using this generic. So basically, it doesn't explicitly turn the string into whatever type the struct has. I'm not really sure if that's what's going on or not. It's kind of confusing still. I think it has to happen inside of here. So obviously this is checking what what type of arguments you're sending. This is the pattern of the string. Wanted to clarify how does it turn the string into the type that the thing is supposed to have. The other thing that is confusing is because of the macro thing there, like the way that the macro is gonna work, that I'm not really sure how it works under the hood, is where is the struct related to this? Like how is the struct related to this? So obviously, it's implementing the parser through the macro. I think that's one of the things that makes it confusing. But like, how does it work? I think it's because the implementation is the struct. So this implementation here is implementing on the CLI struct. Maybe. But then I don't understand how the struct that you put there, how the variables are gonna be related to this. It doesn't make much sense to me. And so obviously it's looping over them. So this has to maybe here or somewhere else. It's just subcommand stuff here. A possible subcommand, like the name says. I'm just checking this escape pattern. Yeah, so it has to be one of these functions, I guess. Yeah, so it looks like this function is just gonna do something, it's gonna return the string itself, it's not gonna convert the string into another type. I don't know, it's like, it seems seems like it is overly complicated. Maybe like there are things that I don't understand, that's why it has to be like this. I feel like it should be easier to see where it's converting one thing to the other. And the thing like, but I think that part of this is just the macro stuff. It's hard to bridge the gap, and I understand very well like what is gonna happen under the hood when you have the macro there. I'm pretty sure it's gonna add some code, but then I don't understand like the details of that. Because I think it just does that probably. It matches the value and then returns one based on the type here, or something like this. So yeah, I'm gonna ask this to ChatGPT off stream, and I'm going to not spend too much time, I think, but just try to clarify some things. But the main thing that I'm thinking about is how to structure the exercises. Because I think understanding in this library as well, I don't care that much like these other ones. This is another thing that I have to think about because I don't want to get stuck looking into libraries that are not core libraries to what I'm doing. But I do think it is important to spend a bunch of time on these libraries because obviously they are the ones used most frequently. So since I'm probably going to use them all the time, I should probably spend a bunch of time dissecting everything. But I think it's probably better to do this off stream, ask ChatGPT. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT the questions and then try to clarify more. But the main thing I'm thinking about is like what do I do for the exercises, because there is one thing is understanding how everything works, and the other thing is being able to type it myself. And I'm not really sure, like it's kind of annoying if I think what I have to do is probably do a closed card on the website. That's probably the best thing to do, because then it saves you time from typing all the other irrelevant stuff, like the parentheses, the curly braces. But then I'm not really sure if that's gonna be good, because the problem I had with when I was doing something like similar to this with Anki is that you don't really memorize the stuff because you don't use it in practice. I spent a bunch of time memorizing PowerShell commands, and it did help like remember every time that I see, like I understand, but because I don't have the practice of using it myself, then I end up never using it because like it's not in the context of something that I want to do. And I'm not really sure how to bridge the gap between the two. Obviously, the main thing you can do is build projects, but then the tendency is both to use AI to do it, and then it's just gonna write everything for you, and you're never gonna improve. And also, is too slow because each time you want to do a project, you're just gonna like develop into something that might distract you. So I'm not really sure what to do when it comes to this. I'm just gonna stop streaming now, and just to keep consistency, I'm gonna try to stream very frequently, and I'm probably just gonna do the same thing that I did. Because the other thing is that I don't want to spend too much time doing this off stream because I have a lot of other stuff to do. So probably when I stream, I'm just gonna do like this. I'm probably just gonna talk to ChatGPT as well, and then develop this on stream also. But I'm not really sure. Maybe I'll stream less often, and then I'll talk to I reserve some time that I would stream talking to ChatGPT, and then once I have something ready, I stream. So yeah, I'm not really sure. But I think I'm gonna try to stream like every 1 hour every day, probably something like this, and just continue to do this until I have like a full system to improve as fast as possible. So see you then.